Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Hanford, and my wife, Danae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. Before we get started, let's hear from one of our sponsors. Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com.
We are joined today on the podcast by Jeff Altman. He's the head of the Big Game Hunter, is a career and leadership coach. He also hosts 2 radio shows on job search, and he's the head coach for Search Coaching HQ&nbsp and nbsp.com. So Jeff, thank you for being on with us. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us. And let's just jump right in. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today as a job search coach?
I'll tell you, like so many people, you take a circuitous path to get to where you are. I grew up in New York. I played Little League Baseball where Yankee Stadium is now. Matter of fact, I pitched from where the mound is at Yankee Stadium when I was a kid. And went to school in New York at City College, got an undergraduate degree that qualified me to do absolutely nothing. And from there, stumbled into a career in search, started my first business when I was 22, doing search work. And, I worked in the recruiting field for many years before deciding to transition into coaching full-time a few years ago. Have a master's in social work, considered becoming a therapist in private practice, but decided it wasn't the right time. And, made that transition, as I said, about 2 years ago, and love it. Absolutely love it.
So can you talk to us about, we want to kind of dive into 2 different sides of a tough decision. So first, we want to focus on a tough decision that you made along your journey that really kind of, what I like to say, sticks out like a sore thumb, where it was a decision that you made and it didn't really have the best outcome or the outcome that you had expected.
The most obvious one to me is bad selection of partners. And I put the blame on myself for this. I don't put the blame on them. I started a first business when I was very young and didn't know what I didn't know. With the result being, I worked with someone who was older, who I thought could carry me in some of the areas that I had a deficiency. And I learned pretty quickly on that he was looking for me to carry him, which at age 22 is not so easy because, as I said, I didn't know what I didn't know at that point. And as a business owner, I made terrible mistakes out of ignorance and arrogance that really wound up dooming that business and the one after that as well.
So with that partnership that you had, obviously, it didn't turn out the way you had expected. Is there a lesson that you learned through that experience that has helped you to either, and how to, pick the right partner in the future? Or did it just turn you off completely to having any partners at all? What were some of the lessons that you learned from that partnership that didn't go as you planned?
Number one is slow down sometimes. My temptation is, because of my arrogance, is to believe that I know how to handle more than I do. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I just need to slow down and think rather than react. Think about consequences, look at possibilities, and just reflect on them before just impetuously acting. And that has served me well as I've gotten older. And as a coach, I recognize that symbol, that signal in other people that they want the solution now. They want it right now. And most of the time, you just need to slow down and figure out what could happen here.
So if you were to kind of rewind back before you made that decision and you slowed down your process a little bit, what would you have done differently in that partnership?
Well, ultimately not gone into business with him. He
Sure.
wasn't the right person for me. And I was looking for him to be my savior here. And there are no such people. A partnership is two equal people. Sometimes one person brings a little bit more of this. Sometimes they bring a little bit more of that. And between the two of you, you're able to navigate things. I was too immature at age 22 to be doing this. At least for me, at 22, I was too immature. And I would just simply say, take the time, slow it down, and just really interview a potential partner. Even though I'd worked with this person for a number of years, there were signals there that I should have paid attention to that in my immaturity I ignored. And I know this has shown up at different times for me with other decisions I've made.
So in that particular partnership, was it you that weren't the right fit for the partnership, or was it the other partner that wasn't the person that was right for the partnership?
Ultimately, it was both of us.
Okay.
I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the maturity to go into business at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And in selecting a partner, as I said before, I wanted him to rescue me for some of my deficiencies. And unfortunately, he was thinking of me to rescue him from his. Mm-hmm. And this was just doomed to failure. And we lasted together for a number of years, but slowly but surely the clock ran out on us. It was just time to end the bad marriage.
And in that tough decision that, didn't go so well, could you put a monetary number or estimate on how much you may have lost in that bad decision? I don't want to call it a bad decision because it was a decision that helped you make other decisions better in the future, but in that tough decision.
I'm trying to think of a number and to kind of equate it into modern numbers. I just simply say by standards of our time right now, because this is a decision I made in the 70s, but it would clearly be the equivalent of $500,000 easily.
That's quite a bit of a chunk to have a loss on.
Oh, yes.
So shifting gears a little bit here, what was a tough decision that you made that kind of sticks out to you that really had a really positive outcome or an outcome that was much better than you had expected?
That one is very easy for me. There was a point I was considering doing a transition to becoming a therapist in private practice, and went to graduate school at Fordham University in New York with an eye toward getting a master's in social work. And I was 50 years old at the time. I was considering making this decision and was gung-ho toward doing it. And one day someone walked into class who caught my eye. And the tough decision I had to make was, the easy one was marrying her. The tough one was delaying a transition to a new career. Because at age 50, we had decided to get married, have a family, and putting that off was a painful choice because, I really had enough of doing search at that stage. And now years later, I've done the transition to coaching, but still making the decision to get married, have a child, buy a house, doing all those sorts of things was a smart choice. It's one I don't regret at all. Clearly a good decision for me, but it was still tough because, I have aspirations, I had desires, I had wants, and I was going to have to put some of them on hold for the bigger one.
Yeah, sometimes when, we have the topic of marriage come up and having to put other things on hold or even putting marriage on hold to pursue other opportunities, it's a tough decision.
Yes, it is. And an easy one in one respect. I learned to interview a lot better than I did when I was younger. And clearly I made the right choice. We're married years later. I have a teenage son who is a character as he's supposed to be. Don't look back with regret at all. Clearly the right choice to make. And it was a tough one to make.
So let's talk about your career in leadership coaching. What are some of the tough decisions that you see right now for somebody who is, in that job searching mode or in that, career of trying to find what's the next thing for them?
That's easy. And the biggest hurdle that people have to make is realizing that they need help. By far, most people in our culture are trained to tough it out. They have to figure it out on their own. They know, quote unquote, that they can do this. and they hit their head against the wall repeatedly and unnecessarily when having an advisor, having a coach, having someone to work through the problems with would take so much less time and be so much less painful than the way of going it alone. So that's biggest issue number one for most people is asking for help, because culturally, male or female, it's a tough thing for people to do.
And so somebody who's now made the decision, yes, I want some help. What is it that somebody like yourself can help them, make decisions on or make better decisions?
A lot of different things. And I'll speak about the leadership coaching part of my life in this respect first, and simply say, for people I coach, sometimes it's navigating a business environment where they're doing well, but something isn't clicking for them. They feel stuck in some way. Management is basically telling them unless they fix this, they're going to be stuck at this level. And they have to sort this through. And they've been trying to do it on their own for the longest time. And basically management said, we can't solve this for you. Go talk to Jeff. So I work with people who are managers, directors, VPs. I haven't worked with the president of an organization, but I've worked with a number two to the president of an organization to help them navigate the terrain, be more effective, solve problems by talking it through with someone. Because for political reasons, many people just can't do it within their organization. It looks weak to them. They feel weaker for asking for advice. But when they go outside the organization with someone that they can trust and respect, who cares for them and cares for their success, it's easier for them. So time and again, I work with leaders to help them sort through issues proactively or reactively to get better results. And on the job search side, job hunting is really a complicated process because the skills needed to find a job are different than those needed to do the job. And most people just think that if they arrive and present themselves with their expertise, that's enough to get hired. And it isn't. And they learn the hard way all the mistakes that they make by giving away their power to corporations who are there to evaluate and assess them and trusting that things are going to work out. So I help them navigate the job search terrain as their ally, because it doesn't take a genius to figure out recruiters don't work for job hunters. They work for a corporation that's paying them. And corporations aren't there to look out for the interests of the people that they're assessing. That leaves me. So when I work with senior level job hunters, I'm trying to help them navigate the terrain as their ally, who's paid by them in order to help them get the results in an optimal way.
So, Jeff, you clearly have a unique spot there in the market, are able to reach a lot of people that need help. I wanted to kind of circle back to something that you talked about a little bit earlier with, saying that the biggest decision that the people that you help face is realizing that they need help. And, you mentioned that culturally, sometimes this is a hard thing to do within the corporation. But I think there's also an element to which it's difficult for these people, because if they are high achievers and they are already somewhat successful, usually there's a high level or a high amount of confidence that goes with that. And that's how they got to that. So how do you help them get through that mental block, but also, maintaining that confidence that they have, because that is part of what helped them get to where they are?
And as Marshall Goldsmith says so eloquently with one of his book titles, what got you here won't get you there. It's the realization that at some level, you're stuck, you've plateaued, you need some help. And it's the honesty of looking at yourself and saying, hey, look, I can't bulldoze my way through this. I can't force my way through this. I've got to sort it out differently because I'm not getting the result that I want. And it's that waking up to that reality that's really the beginning of the need for asking for help. Because if they could sort it out, they'd do it already. But there's something at risk for them to ask for help. There's something that holds most people back in the U.S. and in other cultures as well of asking for help. And that's a mistake. It's actually wise and smart to realize that the courage of asking for help is really the beginning point in making change. And the courage to model that for a division of an organization, for your senior leadership team that you don't have all the answers. Opens up other people to ask for advice and support too, that'll make an organization more effective.
So when you are helping your clients and even, maybe perhaps this is something that you've learned through your own experience, what is the strategy that you try to give them, or what's a strategy that you've learned and that you use to make these tough decisions that every entrepreneur and every successful person is going to face?
There's a model that I learned from a coach named Lance Secretan that I think is a gorgeous framework for most people. So for me, I sometimes need to slow down. Remember that it starts with courage. The acronym he uses for a model of work is called CASTLE. Courage, authenticity, service, truthfulness, love, and effectiveness. They're all interdependent with one another. So for me, what I try to do for myself and when I coach other people is to kind of see where it's breaking down for them, as I now try and do for myself or in working with a coach of my own, to see where it's breaking down within that framework. So where I'm not being courageous, where I'm holding myself back out of fear of something that I can't quite identify, that's where my work is. Where I'm being inauthentic with people that I coach because I want to show off that I'm the one who has all the answers, that's where my work is. Does that kind of make sense? I kind of break it down by each of those categories and try and evolve myself or evolve the people I coach into making change.
What would you recommend to our listeners as a book or a resource that they should look into or read and to help them in this entrepreneurial world or in their decision making?
Well, one I was planning on recommending to you, Danae, because I know you do the book reviews on Sunday, is Secretan's book, The Spark, the Flame, and the Torch. Basically, what we want to do is not motivate. We want to inspire. When we motivate, we're asking people to do it for us. When we inspire, they want to do it for us. They want to do it because it's them at their best. And thus, we want to find the spark within ourselves and with others that we can turn into a flame and burn bright, and then carry that torch out into the world where others will want to follow us. Not because they're forced to, but because they want to follow us. So again, that book is Lance Secretan. That's Secretan, The Spark, the Flame, and the Torch.
You've made, obviously, a lot of tough decisions in your career, and you've obviously made some career changes and you've helped a lot of, C-level executives and other leaders in this country and in this world. Obviously, you've probably made some money up to this point in your career. What is the most exciting thing you've done with the money that you've made, or a place that you have traveled with the money that you've made up to this point in your particular career?
There were a lot of places I've been to. Singapore was spectacular. I was at Sentosa, which is where the summit was held between President Trump and Kim Jong-un. Fascinating place, lovely place. And yet I always think of Isla Mujeres off the coast of Cancun as being a lovely place to be. And I have great memories of the three of us going there, spending time on the beach, and just walking to town, eating Nutella crepes, and having a lovely time. So for me, Isla has a special place. Even though I've been to Central Asia, that's where we adopted our son from, is from Kazakhstan, traveling there 3 months after 9/11. Been to Moscow, been throughout Europe, but my favorite place deals with the memories of Isla.
And what's the next item, or the number one item right now on your bucket list?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask this. And the truth is, I don't think in terms of a bucket list, because to me the bucket list is final. I want to think in terms of today. What I can do today to keep moving the needle forward to the things I love and enjoy. And that's helping more people. Helping more people have the lives that they want. And in doing that, it puts the big smile on my face.
Do you have a specific number of people you want to help?
No, I just know that, with my YouTube videos at this point, 750,000 views of them, For my podcast, it's a similar number. It's going to take care of itself. It's more about this other people discovering how I can help them, and either coming to me directly or just being satisfied with the help that they get from my content creation.
Well, that's exciting. And I really appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule, Jeff, to be on the podcast with us today. How can the listeners reach out to you or find you on YouTube or you be able to get some more information on you if they want to continue to follow you?
The easiest way starts off with LinkedIn. LinkedIn.com/IN/the big game hunter. Make a connection request to me. Mention that you listen to the podcast. I just like knowing that, where someone's come to me from. Once we're connected, you can message me if you have questions or advice. My YouTube channel, the easiest way to get to it is jobsearchtv.com. That'll take you directly to my channel. And if you want to listen to the podcasts, the three of them are No BS Job Search Advice, Job Search Radio. Those are number 1 and number 2 in Apple Podcasts about job search. And my newest one is called No BS Coaching Advice.
Well, thank you again so much, Jeff, for being on the podcast. You've shared quite a bit of knowledge with us and several different lessons from different tough decisions that you've made. Look forward to sharing this information with our listeners as we move forward.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Hope you have a good rest of the day.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.